Justin and I were in a relationship with an age gap. I was 7 years older than him. He pursued me for a whole year, using his actions to show me that love could conquer all. But as he was about to graduate and we were preparing to get married, I overheard him telling his friend, "I thought I would love her forever. But now, the thought of her being in her 30s just kills any interest I have." So, behind my back, he started secretly seeing a younger student who looked a lot like me. He spent his days and nights with the girl, yet publicly, he paraded his undying love for me. Later, when I broke up with him, he desperately tried to win me back. I just laughed. "This older sister isn't interested in you anymore. Time to find a new younger brother." I found the women's underwear wedged in the sofa cushion while Justin was cooking in the kitchen. I glanced at him, then picked it up. It was pink, with lace trim the kind young girls favor, a conventional style, very pretty. Just a pity it wasn't mine. My pupils dilated then contracted. A strong premonition washed over me. Justin was cheating on me. Once the thought appeared, it grew with uncontrollable ferocity. I stuffed the underwear back into the sofa cushion. I picked up his phone, opened his messages, and looked for any suspicious traces. Unexpectedly, yet logically, his messages were clean. Only group chat notifications from his professor, urging him to submit his thesis. His social media feed was also clean, with my photo still pinned to the top. The comments below were all blessings. Nothing out of the ordinary, but the premonition in my heart didn't subside in the slightest. A notification shattered my silence. "Your delivery order has been dispatched." With a trembling finger, I tapped on it. A few boxes of condoms filled the screen. Such a private item. My eyes fell on the recipient's information. Ruby Zhang. I silently memorized the name and went back to his messaging app, searching for her. There was no conversation in the chat window, and her contact name wasn't suspicious. I clicked on her social media profile. When I saw her pinned post, a sarcastic smile touched my lips. Oh, it was a photo of them kissing. He was cheating. I wasn't wrong. A wave of nausea churned in my stomach. I clutched my chest, struggling to breathe. I glanced at Justin's back, with trembling fingers. I took a screenshot of her post. I sent it to myself from his phone, with a note, "Sent voluntarily." Then, I deleted the chat history and the screenshot from his album, all in one smooth motion. Perhaps turning 30 had indeed made me calmer. I was much more composed than I had imagined. I placed his phone back where it was. I quietly walked up behind Justin and watched him, a smile on my face. He smiled back, patting my head as he usually did. "Your favorite sweet and sour pork ribs are almost ready. Go rest for a bit." I didn't respond directly, just looked into his eyes with a knowing smile. "Justin, will you only ever make sweet and sour pork ribs for me?" His movements visibly stiffened before quickly returning to normal. Of course, but he avoided my gaze, his actions becoming rushed. I smiled without a word. Liar. Her social media was filled with pictures of him busy in the kitchen. What a coincidence. She also loved his homemade sweet and sour pork ribs. He was silent for a few seconds, then asked, "Why the sudden question?" I shook my head. "No reason." After a moment of silence, I asked, "A notification just popped up on your phone about a delivery. What did you buy?" He was young, after all, and my question made him gasp. His breathing became ragged. He stammered, The season is changing, and my professor is sick. I bought him some medicine to get on his good side so he'll approve my thesis. A little flattery can't hurt." His story was plausible. I nodded, as if afraid I'd overthink it. He added a few more sentences. "He's always been in poor health. A few months ago, he was even hospitalized during the change of seasons. I went to take care of him, remember?" I looked at him for a long moment, then suddenly smiled. "Of course, I remember. That day was our anniversary, but he was late. I called him. He explained hastily that he was at the hospital, looking after his professor." I understood, and considering his professor's health, I made a corn and pork rib soup and brought it to the hospital he mentioned. When I entered the room, it wasn't his professor I saw. It was a young girl. The moment he saw me, he shot up. "What are you doing here?" I looked at the frail girl in the hospital bed, confused. "Oh, this is my professor's daughter. They both got sick and were hospitalized at the same time. My professor is in the next bed. He just went to the restroom," he explained, pointing to the empty bed beside her. So that was it. My doubts vanished. Just then, my boss called, asking me to return to the office to handle an urgent contract. I left the soup, said a few words of encouragement, and left. 4 months. I had never questioned the truth of him taking care of his professor, until just now. I saw her post from that day. The caption, "You worked so hard, my love." It was accompanied by a short video. In the video, he was holding a spoon, feeding her soup, still filming. "Hurry up and drink. It won't be as nutritious if it gets cold." Ruby giggled and leaned in, not to drink the soup, but to plant a kiss on the corner of his mouth. "Disgusting," Justin said, pretending to wipe his mouth, but his smile only grew wider. Ruby laughed even harder and launched into a more fervent kiss. "So what?" she said, "even though she and I look alike, you prefer me this way, instead of that boring old woman, don't you?" He didn't deny it. The memory of the girl's pretty face gradually merged with the one in the video, becoming one, along with the disgust. I suddenly laughed. So, he had been cheating on me for a long time. Justin's voice pulled me back to reality. "What are you spacing out for? It'll get cold if you don't eat." He placed a piece of pork rib in my bowl. I put on a smile again and picked it up, but just as I was about to put it in my mouth, it slipped and fell onto the table. I didn't hold it properly. "It's dirty now." Justin didn't mind and gave me another piece. "It's fine, just have a new one." I stared at him, smiling. "But it's not the same piece. That one had the most meat." I picked up the rib from the table and threw it in the trash. "But I can't have it anymore. A dirty piece of pork would make you sick if you ate it. It would also become a thorn. A constant reminder that you've eaten something tainted. The memory of it would be a form of torture. So, when it's time to throw something away, you just have to do it." And I wasn't just talking about the pork. Justin didn't understand my cryptic words. After a moment of silence at the dinner table, he said nonchalantly, "I have to go out for a bit later." I looked up at him, perhaps to avoid giving himself away. He didn't look at me and continued, "I just got news that my professor's condition has worsened. I need to go see him." "I see." I lowered my head again, my voice a little hoarse. "I happen to be free today. Should I go with you?" The air went still for a moment as he searched for an excuse. Sure enough, half a minute later, he shook his head. "No need. I'm going to consult with him about my thesis anyway." "Oh." I nodded, indicating I understood. He let out a sigh of relief, quickly finished his meal, grabbed his car keys and coat, and rushed out. He was in such a hurry. I finished my meal too. I opened my phone and backed up all the evidence I had just collected. Then I also grabbed my car keys and followed him. I remembered the delivery address on his phone. It was a dormitory building at the university, which was open to the public. I drove to the address. As expected, I saw his familiar car parked downstairs. I looked up, my gaze fixing on the 5th floor. It was a single dorm room, one he had arranged for her through his connections as the student council president. He was devoted, she was bright and lively. What a perfect, loving couple they were. If I didn't know he was my boyfriend, that is, I don't know how much time passed, but the light on the 5th floor suddenly went out. In the darkness, I remained hidden. A few minutes later, the sharp ringing of a phone shattered the silence. It was an unknown number, ringing incessantly. I knew almost instantly who it was. I answered but said nothing. A man's heavy breathing and a woman's soft moans came from the other end. The two sounds intertwined, creating a peak of intimacy. The phone seemed to be wedged in a bed, the sound staticky, cheating on me and giving me a live broadcast. I slammed the screen off. In the darkness, my hearing became more acute. The sounds assaulted my ears. My heart felt like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand. I bit my lip hard, my nails digging into my palms. The pain in my hand couldn't mask the sour, churning feeling in my chest, and the nausea. I took a shaky breath and placed the phone face down, but the sound still haunted me. I had mentally prepared myself before coming here. I thought I would remain calm, but being here, in the moment, I couldn't stop my hands from shaking. After all, we had been together for so many years, but he was the one who was wrong. Why was I the one suffering? My mind gradually cleared. I hadn't hung up. I steadied my breathing, and I hit the record button. Justin returned the next morning. His eyes were bloodshot. When he saw me sitting on the edge of the bed, he was taken aback. "Why are you up so early?" I put on my coat and stood up. "I had a nightmare and woke up. Couldn't get back to sleep. It's almost time for work anyway." "Why are you only just back?" He was a practiced liar. He didn't even flinch as he took off his coat and went into the bathroom. "I was with my professor all night. His fever just broke. I'm going to take a shower and then get some sleep." He gave me no time to doubt or reply, just went into the bathroom and locked the door. My gaze fell on his phone, which he had tossed on the sofa. I picked it up. As expected of a meticulous person, his chat history was completely wiped. I scrolled aimlessly. I didn't find any useful evidence. Just as I was about to put the phone down, a message came in from his best friend, Mark. "Damn, when it comes to two timing, you're the man." It was followed by a thumbs up emoji. I opened the chat. A series of long voice messages filled the screen. They had talked a lot. It had started the night before when Mark had asked him to go out for drinks. He hadn't replied, so Mark had called him several times. It was right when he was with Ruby, growing impatient. He had finally sent a voice message. His tone was unusually harsh. Spit it out or piss off. If it's nothing, then get lost. A true best friend. Mark immediately understood what he was up to. He sighed. You're seeing your little flame even when Allison's in town. Aren't you afraid of getting caught? You're getting bolder and bolder. Justin was silent for a few minutes. When he spoke again, his voice was husky. Allison's in her 30s now. I've realized that maybe it's not her I like. What I've always liked are bright, young university students. Like Ruby, she was like a ray of light that burst into my life. I don't know why, but I just don't feel any interest in Allison anymore. As he said this, Ruby's flirtatious voice could be heard in the background. Mark was shocked by his answer. Dude, you were the one who pursued Allison in the first place, saying you'd be good to her for the rest of your life. She gave you her youth, and now you're cheating on her. You're a real stand-up guy. She knows you have a girlfriend and still throws herself at you. You really think your little flame is that innocent? His voice was slurred with drink, but it couldn't bring Justin back to his senses. Justin's voice was now tinged with disdain and sarcasm. So what if I pursued her? What does it matter? People change. Am I supposed to force myself to be tied to a woman I don't like for the rest of my life? That would be too harsh, too irresponsible to myself. Mark asked. Then why don't you break up with Allison? Justin fell silent. After a long pause, he said, I can't bring myself to. After that, no matter what Mark said, he didn't reply. A mixture of anger and hatred surged within me. I could barely breathe. The words don't like were like 1,000 needles piercing my heart. He said it so casually, like a blunt knife grinding against my soul. I was trembling all over. I should have realized sooner. He had changed months ago. 6 months ago, he had suddenly stayed at the university for a few days. When he came back, there were several scratches on his neck. I asked him what happened. He said nonchalantly, a stray cat on campus had kittens. I was feeding them and got scratched. My heart ached for him. I insisted on taking him to get a rabies shot, but he refused, saying it was nothing. I've already washed it with soap and water. He was so stubborn. I saw no side effects, so I eventually let it go. 3 months ago, he came home late again. He looked exhausted. He had an excuse ready. I was working on my thesis proposal until now. You don't have to wait up for me next time. You go to sleep first. He fell asleep as soon as his head hit the pillow. It seemed that from then on, he stopped being overly intimate with me. Sometimes, when I tried to hug him, he would instinctively pull away. I'm too tired. I understood, but when you give a man too much leeway, he starts to get other ideas. Justin was the perfect proof of that. The moments I had trusted him unconditionally now felt like a joke. Through Ruba's social media, it was easy to see that all the times he had claimed to be busy, he had been with her. He called her his safe harbor. She called him her rock. A man and a woman, alone together. It's easy for things to happen. The day he was scratched by a cat was their first time. She had done it on purpose, leaving visible marks on him for me to see. Overcome with sleep, he didn't notice me looking at his phone. He was fast asleep. I stared at his sleeping form. He seemed to be dreaming, but not a pleasant one. His brow was furrowed. After a while, he murmured my name. So, I had become a part of his nightmares. I let out a soft laugh. I sat on the edge of the bed, my mind flashing through a montage of our time together, frame by frame, sweet and bitter. As I was lost in thought, the phone in my hand vibrated. A friend request. I recognized the familiar anime avatar instantly. It was Ruby. After a moment's hesitation, I accepted. We both knew what was happening and said nothing, but a minute later, she posted on her feed, my boyfriend is a bit silly and dense, but he loves me very much. He always says he's not good at expressing his love, but to me, it feels like he's giving me his whole heart. I won't let him down, though there are some external forces trying to keep us apart. I believe we will overcome them and spend our lives together. It seemed I was this external force. It was a post for everyone to see, but it was aimed solely at me. I wasn't stupid. Just as I was about to scroll past, she sent me the first message. Between us, he pursued me. I knew Justin too well, so I knew that when he truly fell for someone, he would give them all his love. His love was intense and passionate. It could make a woman lose herself in him, and I had been one of them. He first saw me 5 years ago. That day, on a whim, I went to the coffee shop downstairs. I sat by the window, working. A capable, Professional woman is a fatal attraction for a university student. He stared at me for a long time. I noticed his intense gaze. When I turned, our eyes met. He smiled at me and ordered me a latte. I was confused, but he knew exactly how to get to me. I think I've seen you on our university's announcement board. We're even in the same major. You're my senior. There were countless juniors. It wasn't a very good pickup line. I pushed the latte back, about to refuse his offer, but he spoke again. Don't be so quick to refuse. I don't have any other intentions. I just saw you staring at your computer for an hour. You must be tired. Even if talking to me for a few minutes helps you relax, that's good enough. He said it so casually. It stopped me in my tracks. To be honest, I grew up in an orphanage. No one had ever truly cared if I was tired. They only cared how high I could fly. Because of that, my desire to succeed was all-consuming. I had always worked hard, and I had grown used to being alone. I had achieved many things, but love was not one of them. So when Justin said those words, it was a huge blow to my heart. With a selfish thought, I put down my mouse and looked at him. What's your name? That question gave him a huge boost of confidence. From then on, he started getting closer to me, intentionally or not. He even invited me out on weekends. We had a 7-year age gap. I was well aware of the difference between us and had rejected him countless times. But the more I pushed him away, the more determined he became. The last time I was harsh with him, his eyes even welled up with tears. But I never thought age was a problem. It's just 7 years. You can't even tell. Love can overcome anything. When I graduate, I will definitely be able to give you a good life. He even called his parents right then and there and told them he was in love with me. When his parents found out I was 7 years older, they strongly objected. His father's voice was furious. He sounded like he wanted to come through the phone and drag him back. Your mother and I can accept 3 years at most, but 7, if you dare to be with her, I'll disown you. Justin's eyes were red. He gritted his teeth and made a harsh promise. You don't care about me anyway. No one can stop me from loving her. With that, he hung up. He even blocked his parents. His parents, furious, cut off his allowance, trying to force him to change his mind. He still didn't back down. He took a part-time job at the university entrance on weekends. After paying for his living expenses, he spent the rest of his earnings on gifts for me. I saw his sincerity. A few months later, I finally agreed to be with him. He cried with joy. Then he wiped his tears and put on a proud face. I told you, you couldn't bear to let me go. You like me too. I laughed out loud, unable to take my eyes off him. He was as happy as a child who had just gotten candy. But now, he had left that candy to melt on its own. He kept saying he had to be responsible for himself. Well, so did I. I had to be responsible for myself now. I went to the office. The day passed without incident. When I got home that evening, Justin was gone. I gave him a call. He answered instantly. The background was noisy. This time, he had a new excuse. I'm out for drinks with Mark. You don't have to wait up. I just said After hanging up, I immediately called Mark. He answered. When he heard my question, he first froze, then hastily explained. His voice was strained. Oh, yes, we're together. He hasn't had a drink in a while, so he's pretty drunk. You don't have to wait up for him. I'll take him back to my place. The familiar cover-up. I was the only fool left in the dark. I let out a sarcastic laugh. I sat in silence for half an hour, thinking. It seemed that since I had found out about his cheating, I had been remarkably calm. No heartbreaking scenes, no confrontations. There were advantages to being older. At least I wasn't as dramatic as a young girl. I hadn't thrown everything away for love. In that moment, I was suddenly grateful. Grateful that I hadn't lost myself in him all these years. I hadn't made him my entire world, nor had I abandoned my friends for love. These were all my leverage now, and the one who had made the mistake had to pay the price. With that thought, I sent Justin another message. I have a sudden 2-week business trip. I left the door unlocked for you. It was time to close the net. I was sure he wouldn't disappoint me. I found a random shop downstairs and sat down. I had secretly installed a security camera a few days ago. Justin didn't know. Half an hour later, the two of them appeared on the screen. He seemed impatient. The moment they were inside, before he even took off his shoes, he shed his coat. He and Ruby tumbled onto the sofa, kissing passionately. Ruby wasn't satisfied and deliberately provoked him, asking who he liked more. Justin's words were slurred, but he answered earnestly, "You, of course." A few minutes later, they finally stopped. Justin opened a bottle of red wine and poured it into glasses. They were drinking merrily. It wasn't hard to guess what would happen next. Pretending to go on a business trip was just a trap to lure him in. but I couldn't stand the thought of them doing disgusting things in my house. After making sure I had recorded that scene, I turned on the camera's microphone. "Justin." My calm voice echoed through the room. Justin and Ruby froze. The wine in their glasses sloshed out, spilling onto Ruby's white skirt. A red stain spread. I chuckled softly. He finally snapped out of it and shoved Ruby 3 meters away. The wine glass shattered on the floor, red wine splashing everywhere. Caught off guard, Ruby stumbled and fell. Her elbow hit the leg of a table, scraping it raw. She cried out in pain. Justin frantically searched for the source of the voice. When he saw the small red light in the corner, his face went ashen. "Weren't you on a business trip? When did you install a camera?" He wasn't as flustered as I had expected. I only answered his first question. The trip was cancelled. His face was a mask of deathly silence. He ignored me but quickly pulled Ruby up from the floor. His voice was low. "You should go." Ruby pouted but said nothing. She probably didn't want to be in such an awkward situation either. She grabbed her bag and headed for the door, but it was too late. When she opened the door, we came face to face. "Don't go. Since I'm back, let's talk." She really was just a little girl. She didn't know how to handle the situation. Her face pale with fright, I advanced on her, backing her onto the sofa. She cast a helpless look at Justin. She looked so pitiful. Justin, holding back his anger, had veins popping on his forehead. "What do you think you're doing? This is between the two of us. Why are you dragging her into it?" "No." I shook my head, my face composed. "I am your girlfriend. You cheated on me with her. How is this just between the two of us?" Justin's face turned even paler. Tears welled up in Ruby's eyes. She subtly hid behind him. Now she knew how to be scared. I stared at her, and Justin blocked my view. He had calmed down. "When did you find out?" I looked up at him, my expression blank. After a long pause, I suddenly laughed. I pulled out the pink lace underwear that had been in the sofa for days. My face felt stiff. "The day you said you were taking care of your professor." The room fell into a dead silence. You could hear a pin drop. His lips were pressed into a thin line as he stared at me. After a long moment, he asked, "You're not sad?" It would be a lie to say I felt nothing, but I had to accept the reality. What had happened, had happened. There was no going back. Even if we got back together, what then? The crack was already there. So, I shook my head. I looked at the trembling Ruby behind him and changed the subject. "He does make good sweet and sour pork ribs. We have similar tastes. And you two seem quite compatible in bed." From what I heard, the moment I said that, the affection in Justin's eyes vanished. "Stop it. Why should I?" A malicious thought began to grow inside me. I pretended not to hear him. Then I suddenly felt a wave of sadness. We had been together for so many years. Everyone said he was madly in love with me. Some even said I was heartless because I hadn't given up anything for him. And he, for me, was willing to cut ties with his parents, though he never actually did. He was an only child, and he was determined to be with me. Over the years, seeing that our relationship was stable, his parents had compromised. Just last month, his mother had even messaged me, asking when we planned to get married. I had replied with complete faith in him. "Well, get our license as soon as he graduates." She hadn't said anything more, but now, it all felt pointless. Looking at Ruby, I relayed his mother's words to her. "When you have time, you should go visit your future mother-in-law. Tell her for me that her son's fiancé has changed. Oh, and you don't have to be nervous. I've already packaged up the photos of you two and sent them to them, including the phone recording and the surveillance video." His parents were very upright people. After all these years, they had just started to accept me, and now he had cheated. He would definitely not be welcomed home. And Ruby, as the other woman, would be treated the same. My tone was perfectly level, but it was enough to make Ruby burst into tears. Justin's face looked like he had eaten something foul. "Shut up. I never said I wouldn't break up. What's the point of telling her all this?" he roared, full of fury and frustration. Looking at him, I laughed through my anger. Suppressed emotions are always more deadly than a violent outburst. I am not a good person. I just didn't want them to have it easy. He was truly angered by me. His hands were trembling. I stopped looking at them, but a bad feeling crept over me. I looked up. The chandelier above was swaying precariously, and a crack had appeared in the wall. The next second, the crack widened. A piece of plaster fell. Justin's eyes widened. He tried to pull me away. "Watch out." I recoiled from his touch and took a few steps back. The next second, the chandelier crashed to the floor. It shattered into pieces, sending up a cloud of dust. Through the haze, I looked at Justin's unreadable expression. "Remember, you bought this light." The moment our relationship broke, it broke too. I didn't mean anything by it. but Justin understood. He gritted his teeth and let out a bitter laugh. He ignored my words, grabbed Ruby's wrist, and headed for the door. His voice was strained with emotion. Finally in a good mood, and she had to ruin it. Did you bring your ID? Let's go to a hotel. He said it for me to hear. He slammed the door shut. The living room was suddenly quiet. The lingering scent of a strange perfume, cloyingly sweet, made me want to gag. I climbed onto the sofa and curled up in a corner. The confrontation had been a form of torture for me as well. I don't know when it started raining outside. Raindrops streaked down the glass. The sound of a car engine starting came from below, accompanied by Ruby's cheerful laughter. A sharp, twisting pain shot through my chest. I finally lost control and bent over, gagging, but I only threw up a little bit of sour liquid. Tears splashed onto the floor, mixing with the sound of the growing rain. I slid off the sofa and collapsed onto the floor. Looking at the mess, I hugged my knees and buried my face in my arms. I trembled silently. When I looked up again, it was dark. My eyes were swollen like walnuts. I silently threw the broken chandelier into the trash. It was really over. After that day, I lost contact with him. I saw him again over a month later. It was at the same coffee shop where we first met. I was waiting for someone. After some time, I noticed an intense gaze and instinctively looked outside. I met Justin's eyes. His were turbulent with emotion. Ruby, beside him, also noticed me. She linked her arm with his and walked inside. He didn't refuse, but his eyes never left my face. Ruby led him to a table right next to mine. She called the waiter over, her voice louder than usual. A caramel latte for my boyfriend, less sugar. She deliberately emphasized the word boyfriend. Justin didn't stop her. He just turned to look at me, trying to read my expression. I was blank. I stretched a bit and went back to my work. Justin's face visibly darkened. His movements became rougher. After their drinks arrived, he moved to sit next to Ruby. You don't even like this. And you still came with me. You're so silly, she said, her voice full of affection. Because I love you. Ruby looked at me, a triumphant expression on her face. When I didn't react, she huffed and turned away. Justin was the one making the biggest show. No matter how intimate they acted, it didn't faze me. He was so angry he laughed, then lost the will to stay. He took her hand and led her away. As they passed me, a flash of malice crossed Ruby's eyes. She stuck out her foot and kicked at my shin. She was wearing high heels. It would have been excruciatingly painful, but my years of work had sharpened my reflexes. I quickly pulled my leg back. She couldn't stop her momentum and kicked the leg of the chair instead. A sharp cry of pain escaped her lips, and her face contorted. Justin was confused. He looked down at her for a second, then immediately turned on me. Was that necessary? Allison, pretending not to care, then deliberately tripping her. You're in your 30s. Stop being so childish. Weren't you the one who didn't care? His sarcastic tone quickly drew the attention of other patrons. Ruby was in too much pain to speak, but hearing Justin's words, she awkwardly looked away. She didn't explain on my behalf. I knew that in this situation, a dry explanation would be useless. So, I laughed and looked at the waiter. Could you please show me the security footage? I was a regular and a member here. The waiter quickly pulled up the video from a moment ago and showed it to Justin. His face turned even uglier. The way he looked at Ruby had changed. When he looked back at me, his eyes were filled with apology. He opened his mouth, about to say something, but I looked past him and saw Daniel, who had just arrived. I waved at him, my eyes lighting up. Over here. The words on the tip of Justin's tongue were swallowed back down. He turned. The moment he saw Daniel, his face turned black as soot. He whipped his head back to me. He almost demanded, his voice trembling, "Who is he?" Daniel was a student in the same year as Justin. He had added me as a friend a long time ago to ask about company recruitment. He had asked to meet today to inquire about internship opportunities. Our relationship was completely professional, but I wasn't going to prove anything to Justin. I looked at him with cold eyes, a humorless smile on my face. I have no obligation to explain anything to you. Daniel had reached our table. He looked from me to Justin, confused. After confirming everything was fine, he sat down. Justin stared at the jacket Daniel had draped over the back of the chair. His fists clenched so tight his knuckles turned white. His eyes were bloodshot. Daniel cleared his throat, but before he could speak, Justin cursed under his breath. He let go of Ruby, grabbed Daniel by the collar, and hauled him out of his seat. He threw a punch. "So you're her new boy toy." Daniel's glasses went flying. He was stunned for a moment. Then the two of them started fighting. The coffee shop descended into chaos. After a series of crashes and bangs, coffee cups were overturned, liquid spilling everywhere. Ruby was stunned. I reacted quickly, grabbing a cup of coffee from the table and throwing it at Justin. Have you had enough? Ice cubes hit his face and slid down his collar. In the moment he froze. Daniel landed another punch. Are you disgusting? You were the one who cheated, and now you're acting like a jealous maniac. Do you want everyone to know what a scumbag you are? His words were merciless. Justin's movements faltered. He had no strength left. I forcefully pulled him away. My eyes were as cold as if I were looking at a stranger. You and I ended a long time ago. Don't make me sick. The moment I said that, his whole body trembled. His breathing grew heavier, but he still stubbornly looked at Daniel. Who is he? I sneered. Does the answer to that question even matter? You were the one who cheated. Now you're the one throwing a fit. On what grounds? Do you think your experience with infidelity gives you the right to lord it over me? Or do you think I should just wait for you forever? His face turned pale. I continued without mercy. From the day you cheated, you were out of my world. What disgusts me most isn't the betrayal, but this pathetic, tail-wagging display you're putting on now. Like a mad dog. Your new girlfriend is right here, and you're still acting so disgusting. You've lost every last shred of dignity. Do I have a new boyfriend? What right do you have to question me? Take a look at yourself and see if you're even worthy. Even if I go through 1,000 boyfriends, you have no right to say a word. His face was ashen. He looked to be in agony. It was clear he had some regrets, but it was too late. As the saying goes, you can't mend a broken mirror. The true victor had already moved on. Justin fled in disgrace. I looked at Daniel, my eyes filled with scrutiny and suspicion. I've never told you anything about my private life. How did you know we broke up? And that it was because he cheated? His face turned red, then white. Under my questioning, he finally told the truth. Because I've been silently paying attention to you. I knew you before he did, but I was a coward. I didn't dare to confess my feelings. I regret it very much. I immediately understood what he was getting at and rejected him. His cowardice was his mistake, not mine. So missing out on me was what he deserved. And I didn't want to invest in another sunk cost. It was too painful. I had already been through it once. I didn't want to go through it again. I still believe in love. Just not right now. Daniel was flustered and rushed to make a promise. I will never let you go through that again. I smiled and shook my head. That wasn't the point. I am an excellent person in my own right. At any stage of my life, I will meet a worthy partner. And if I don't, that's fine too. My life doesn't revolve around romance. Justin and Ruby did break up. Justin's mental state deteriorated. He started drinking heavily at bars. He even started calling me frequently. His voice sounded haggard. You still have some of my things. When are you free? I'll come and pick them up. I refused. The things we had when we lived together, I had bought for him. After we broke up, I had the right to take them back. I had already thrown his things out. The opportunity to see me was denied. He was in pain. His voice took on a pleading tone again. Can't you just listen to my explanation? Was that really the last time we'll ever see each other? Yes. I hung up, but I still ran into him a few days later. It was by the river where we used to walk. After so many years together, he knew my habits, so he waited there for me. I tried to walk past him, but he grabbed my wrist. His grip was tight. I couldn't break free. I turned and looked at him with a hint of annoyance. The smell of alcohol washed over me. His eyes were glazed over. He explained frantically. I deleted all of Ruba's photos and blocked her number. I pried his fingers off and took a step back. And, he choked. His voice softened considerably. After we broke up, I realized I've always loved you. I was infatuated with Ruby, but only because she looked like you. I smiled faintly, showing no reaction. He grew anxious. The words tumbled out. How miserable his life had been without me. He couldn't sleep. He was anxious. He would stare at my profile picture for hours in the middle of the night. He wanted to call but held back time and time again. He knew me well, so he knew I wouldn't come back. But he wanted to see me again, so he waited by the river. The moment he saw me again, the suppressed emotions finally burst forth. He covered his face and sobbed. I'm begging you, please forgive me. Okay, I will never do anything to hurt you again. But, cheating is a 0 or infinite times kind of thing. It's a lesson so many people have learned. I've already seen him for who he is. If I fall for it again, I'd be an idiot. Now, a grown man was crying in front of me. I was unmoved. In fact, I even let out a derisive laugh. The moment I knew you cheated, you lost your hold on me. That moment my heart stopped had made up for the spark I felt when we first met. We didn't owe each other anything anymore. He noticed my smile and seemed to understand. The hope in his eyes vanished. His hand fell limply to his side. A few seconds later, he rallied again. He fumbled in his pocket and pulled out a ring. presenting it to me like a treasure. A ring. I was confused. He gave a bitter laugh, his voice husky. We were supposed to get married after I graduated, remember? I actually bought the engagement ring a long time ago. I never thought about leaving you. Is that so? I looked at the ring. The diamond wasn't large, but I could tell he had chosen it with care. But, belated affection is cheaper than grass. I didn't take it. Instead, I laughed and looked at him expectantly. Is it useful? Those 3 words shattered his last shred of reason. He pulled his hand back, clutching the ring so tight his knuckles turned white. He lowered his head, not wanting to drag it out. I turned to leave. He suddenly looked up, his lips trembling as he squeezed out my name. Allison. I was wrong. His other hand reached for the corner of my shirt. I took a step back. He froze, his nails digging into his palm. My phone suddenly vibrated. His phone was ringing. It was that familiar contact name. The wallpaper had been changed to a photo of the 2 of us. He pressed the decline button as if he'd been shocked, but the phone rang again. Relentlessly, he suddenly lost it. He cursed, held the phone up, and threw it into the river. It made a small splash. He looked at me with red eyes. Is there really no chance for us? No. He was silent for a long time, so long that I couldn't wait any longer and turned to leave. Only then did he finally speak. I understand. I nodded without looking back at him. Never bother me again. A storm of complex emotions raged in his eyes. After a long pause, he managed a strained nod. Okay. He cheated on me. I gave up on him. It was as if he was trying to comfort himself. I finally let out a breath, a wave of relief washing over me. When a relationship has run its course, it's time to give yourself back to you.